This mic is on now. Hello, wow. We're tired today, huh? All right, well, my name is Oona, and this is the NFT bubble. And it goes away slowly, fading. Might need a couple pops to make it actually go. And now that we have your attention, we are going to talk about storytelling and photography. My name is Oona. I'm a mixed media artist. I do conceptual art. And it is a pleasure to be here as one of the only people on this panel that does moving image. Everyone else up here does photography. And so Matthew, I would ask that you start with the lovely introductions, and then we'll kind of just go down the line.
Hi, everyone. Matthew Morrocco. I'm a photographer like many people here. I have a project called Complicit. It's a series of 55 photographs of older gay men in various languid 19th century poses.
Hey everyone, my name is Nour Chamoun. I'm co-founder of Scopio, a photo storytelling platform and NFT marketplace. I think we're the first photography-focused marketplace, NFT marketplace, and we focus on diversity and representation.
Hello. Hey everybody, give me a wave if you can see us. What's up? Yo. My name is Wes Eisenhower. I'm a photographer, filmmaker, musician from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I currently have a project called The Last Time We Were Young that I've collaborated with my mother on. Yeah, happy to be here.
Hello everyone, I'm Food Masku. I take meals and I put them on my face and I take photos of them, and people on the internet seems to love it so much that they right-click saved and started posting it elsewhere. So I started making NFTs of them, and I became one of the top-selling artists on Known Origin of last year. And it's so great to be here among such amazing photographers.
Yeah.
I also brought my breakfast with me, which I didn't have time to eat earlier. So while people are talking, I might make a mask out of it. If that's okay with all of you?
Lovely.
I like
Great.
it.
Okay, thank you.
I really would like to see that. Can somebody start the video on that right now? My name is Chris Graves. I'm a photographer and a publisher and curator based in Queens. So close. If you're a Queens native, what's up? Yes, I see you over there. So I am my own photographer. I run two publishing companies, both photography based. One is called Chris Graves Projects. One is called Monolith Editions, which is devoted to like people of color in the arts, not only photography. And I now operate a platform named Quantum.art, which is an NFT platform that I started with three buddies, and we're growing exponentially, faster than I can ever imagine. So thanks. And I also make my artwork into NFTs. So thanks for having me on the panel. I'm glad to be here.
Of course. One of the beautiful things about NFTs that I'm sure everyone can attest to is their ability to bring artists from different mediums together. So you have publishers, you have fashion, you have video. Myself, you have performance art. Food Masku, you also have performance art. And most of the panelists today have chosen to use the camera as their vehicle. So I'd like to start with just a quick question to each of you. Why the camera? When there's so many different avenues, what about the lens speaks to you? And yeah, we can start with that, and then we can get into some juicier questions later.
I'm at the end, so I'm just going to go ahead and start that. Why? And I'm also going to watch all of this happen, whatever this is. I'm not good at anything else. I think in high school I realized that I was really bad at most. I didn't want to do anything else besides art, and the only art that I thought you could make money in was photography. So I chose that very early on and just ran with it. Went to school for it, and it's my entire life, so I don't really know anything else. I can't do anything else now, so I'm stuck.
Yeah, I think people are most moved by stories, and there's really no better way than telling stories than telling visual stories. So the camera is really, for me at least, like photography, video, especially photography, it's one of the main ways you can tell stories and move people emotionally through a photo. So I felt like, as someone from the global south, it's really important to own your narrative and to create a platform for people to tell their own story and not to have someone tell your story for you, even if they're a photojournalist. So first off, it's important for you to tell your story and use a camera as a weapon in a way to kind of claim your narrative. So for me, that's kind of the reason.
I love that. Love it. I mentioned I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and that's a choice I made to live in a place that's kind of remote and sparsely populated. I had a mentor once say to me that if you only hear stories about other places and other communities, you start to feel like life is only being led elsewhere, right? So I think it is important to share your story. Life happens in the median, right? In the middle, between the ups and downs of life. And I think we have a commonality as humans, a shared experience, that we all have a duty to share our story and to share it with the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think photography is like a lot of you are saying, photography is the best way, I think, to own your narrative. But I also think that photography is the language of the 21st century, just like full stop. Like technology often, I think a lot of people underestimate how important technology is that guides how people function in the world. And if you look at, for example, like late 19th century painting with Monet and Degas and all of the Impressionists, the reason that they're painting outside is because of the technology of paint tubes, right? And so in a similar way for me, photography is just this technology that comes along that is the most important and consequential of our generation. And photography is a defining factor for me of like what art is in this moment.
We'd probably have a lot of maxis in the house that would say, NFTs are the most important. But it does bring us to a good point, right?
We don't have NFTs without social media, and we don't have social media without photography.
This is true. This is so true. And there is a big shift to kind of moving image, which I would be curious to get your opinion on later. But you just kind of made me think of something, right? So we're working with the new technology, and there is an element of kind of documenting and capturing. So even though it's at the forays of this emerging tech, we're still really trying to preserve. And Chris, when we were talking before, you had really mentioned that you were attracted to blockchain and NFTs for the act of preservation. So I was wondering if you kind of wanted to speak about why you preserve these stories and why it's important to preserve stories on blockchain.
Well, for me, I think it's important to note that there's nowhere else at this moment in history, I don't think there's anywhere else where your work can exist past you being alive, right? I mean, you can live in a museum. I mean, your work can be in all the museums in the world, but who's going to see it in the basement of the museum or the library? So for my work to be on the internet and not under my control anymore is kind of the best place. That's the best for me because I don't have to manage every piece that I've ever made all the time myself. Like if and when I die, there will be no more on my website. There will be no more, my Instagram presence is gone. My Twitter presence is definitely gone. So, how do you create a safe haven for your career? And I think that NFT is probably the only way I see that right now.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of talk about, community in the NFT industry, and everyone loves that fucking word, and it feels like no one knows what it really means. There is, artists and sometimes making art, it doesn't necessarily need to be appreciated by a community. So having a way to document your practice and hopefully have it live beyond you is so interesting because it offers a recontextualization of the original footage. And Wes, your project, which remind us the title.
The Last Time We Were Young.
The Last Time We Were Young is a brilliant mix of kind of showing that you can take photography and you can remix it to the present moment. So I'm wondering if you kind of want to riff on that.
Yeah. My project started with me finding a box of 200 Kodachrome slides that my mom and dad had shot in the late 1970s on a 2-month road trip they had taken across the western United States. And not only, it was a full circle moment for me as a photographer myself. My mother was my biggest influence, and to think she had shot all these amazing images on film, on the go, without a lot of chances to mess up was beautiful to me. So not only was it beautiful photography, but it was also a glimpse into my parents' life when they were kids. And that's why I called it The Last Time We Were Young. I have children myself. I know that when you have kids, or you definitely give a piece of yourself up, right? You make that sacrifice. It's a net gain generally, but you're losing some of yourself. So I just thought not only was it photography I could appreciate, but it was also a very interesting glimpse into my parents' life before they had children. And that really cemented why I love photography. These seemingly insignificant moments that are captured candidly, with the passage of time, suddenly become very, very interesting to the next generation of people, the next generation of photographers, the next generation of humans, to get a glimpse into how ordinary life was lived. So photography plus time is an emotion to me. And I think that it's very important in my own life that we document the seemingly mundane moments, because they're going to be important to the people who come after us.
I think that's super important. I mean, I would just add to that with, I think, the idea of storytelling and why the point of this panel is about storytelling and photography, but I think that, like, the point of storytelling, the importance of storytelling is to tell people in the future what their past, their history was like. Photography, in my opinion, in a lot of ways is, the history of right now on the blockchain. This is sort of what we're doing. And I think, when you, as a parent, you're not often upfront and clear with like what your story is with your kids. And if you can document that in a way to give to them, it helps explain why you might have acted a certain way, when they spilled something or, whatever it is, that helps them understand who they are and why they are the way they are. I think it's essential for essential viewing for people in the future.
Yeah, and I love that almost everyone on this panel is working with memory, people's memories, and kind of preserving that memory and immortalizing that. Which reminds me as well, we're launching a book today. It's called The Year Time Stopped. It's really about 200 photos and stories from around the world during the pandemic 2020, and it's been a hard year for everyone, and everyone kind of wants to forget. But it's really important to remember and also think of the resilience of the human spirit throughout the pandemic and how we were all able to overcome that. So even like Wes was talking about immortalizing things in the past, immortalizing things that happened 2 years ago, and especially 2020 is a year really for the books and that we're all going to look back on in the future. So that's kind of, for me, one of the main values of photography is it's a timestamp, whether it's digital or physical, whether it's an NFT or in a book. It's really something that is unlike anything else that you're going to look back on, and that when people documented it, the moments that in time truthfully and authentically, that is, I think, one of the most beautiful things that we can do for future generations.
It's so funny that we're talking about permanence and we're sitting on stage with someone who has 2 bagels on their face. It's not like those are going to last very long. Food Master, do you want to tell us about the impermanence of your practice as well?
Definitely, they will not last longer than 1 meal's worth of time. But I wanted to add to Noura's point, the importance of memories and how during traumatic experiences, your memories are actually exaggerated. You remember a lot of things, and if you only remember the bad things, then that is actually really bad for you. And I know this personally as a victim of a shooting and as somebody who suffers from PTSD. So before I became Food Master, I was already viral for my series where I took selfies of my scars as I was healing from a shooting. And then when the pandemic happened, everybody was going through a generational trauma, right? And we needed to record that somewhere, somehow. And if you only record the bad, like you said, it just gets accentuated. So that's when Food Master started, because I was on a Zoom call and somebody got on with a pickle face filter they couldn't turn off. And then I was, they were really embarrassed. So I took my dinner. Right now you're seeing bagels, but it was a kale then, and put it on my face, and everybody started laughing. It was the first time I heard laughter in a month. So I started posting it every day on Instagram, and it really hit with the people during that time. And those photographs, I think, will be in people's memories as a time capsule, and I hope that'll be something to help them move forward and remember not only the bad, but also the good.
Yeah, brilliant. It's so important to remember that one of the driving factors of art can also be amusement and joy, and the joy of making and the joy of discovering and even the joy of curating. And Chris, I know that you have somewhat of a curatorial background as well. Do you want to kind of share what you're doing with Quantum?
Yeah, so we started Quantum in November, and we've been releasing one photographic project per week every Thursday since then, and we've been able to like kind of sell everything except for like last week's drop so far. So we've been really successful in building a collector base. So Quantum's going really well. We've now reached out and kind of grabbed the digital art department. So we're working with digital art that's not photography based, which is good. We're building a lot. And we also have a physical location out in Santa Monica. So if you're in LA, please visit our physical location where we're kind of trying to break down the borders between NFT people and not. I mean, so you can go into our store and pay with your credit card, and you get a piece of art that gets pushed to your Ethereum wallet directly in one transaction. So we're doing that, which I think is going to be big for the future of all NFT, not just artwork NFT, but everything. It's kind of amazing how easy our developers are top notch. I mean, I'm so glad we have them.
Yeah, we certainly need more of them.
But I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question. I think as far as curatorial, it's like with Quantum, we want to put work up that stands the test of time, like work that cannot be easily replicated by an artist. I mean, the things that take years and years to produce is what we'd like to put on the site. I mean, we want to show people that there's like some really talented people in the world, and that's kind of how we focus it.
You said really talented people, Matthew?
Yes. Yeah, soon we'll launch Matthew's work, which is going to be really quite awesome. I shouldn't have told people that so early, but
No, we absolutely should.
this is not being recorded, right?
Something to look forward to. Yes, I mean, I just quickly, I guess, speak about my project. It kind of started when my grandmother died. In a lot of ways, she was this matriarch for my family, and when she died, I think it was like such a seminal moment for my family. I think if anybody sort of experienced a death in the family, you sort of understand, I think, but especially when it's a matriarch of like a huge family of like 100 people, that's like such a big moment. And so I wanted to understand, I think, where I came from in a certain way. And in photographing, I realized that the most intimate older people that I could get access to were older gay men, and they kind of opened up a whole history to me that I, as a gay man myself, was kind of unaware of about AIDS and how many people were sort of dying in the 80s and 90s and what that sort of meant. And I think that the project kind of became, in many ways, not only this me trying to understand what it meant to kind of grow old, but also I think for those people, for the gay men of that generation, I think there was such an importance placed on photography and photographing themselves because life was so transient for them back then. Because people, and especially here in New York City, I mean, it was very harrowing what was happening. And to me, to be able to kind of cement that history in a new way that is different from what it was, that also to some degree kind of is the legacy of my grandmother and my family, I think was to kind of cement it on the blockchain was super meaningful to me. And I've been actually really amazed to see how many people also have been moved by the work.
It's honestly one of my favorite collections. The photographs are so intimate and so beautiful, and I will just attest to the importance of documentation and visibility, right? Like, even as we walk around this space, it's very obvious to see that all of us are enthusiastic, but there's so many more voices that can be included in the larger narratives that are dominating NFTs, and that's why it's my personal pleasure to be on stage with you all today, because we each kind of represent our own flair. And if you actually think about web building, there is no finite, there is no stop. Everyone can add their own kind of angle to it, and that's also what draws me to your project, Nour, because it is giving this voice of, hey, what do you think? Why don't you share how you experienced a time, a space, a moment? So do you want to share about the personal intimacy of storytelling on your platform or either in the book?
Sure. With the platform, the idea of it is to be the source to tell the story of every community around the world. And I don't think any platform has really done that in an authentic way. So that's kind of the lack that I've seen in photography and storytelling, and that's what we're trying to do. And the book is a kind of a product of that in a way where we wanted to tell untold stories from the pandemic through communities, especially from the global south, untold stories, underrepresented communities, and really kind of people emotionally talking about themselves and their experiences, as opposed to when you're looking at a photojournalist that took a photo, you see something very cold, like describing what's in the photo as if it's a zoo. It's not like that at all. The person telling the story should be coming from within the community, and that's where the authenticity comes from. So that's kind of the whole drive for everything we create.
Wes, can I kick it to you? Photography, I just tripped up on how to say the word. Photography and authenticity and intimacy. How do you use photography to kind of relay that intimacy, and where do you see that playing in your practice?
Yeah, for me, I've come to some of my favorite photographic moments unintentionally, right? I often go out with my camera hoping to capture something interesting, and it usually doesn't happen. So for my practice, I have found that I get the most luck or the most joy when I just make myself available to the moments and allow them to happen rather than chasing them, right? So again, I think life is lived in the median between the ups and downs, and if you can find interesting things about the mundane, that's a very relatable thing. Most of our lives happen within the mundane, right? So I've found that my practice is best entertained when I just allow it to come to me. I make myself available to it. I have my camera with me and I'm ready, and I don't chase it. And that's usually when the best results happen.
Speaking of making something interesting out of the mundane, I would love to hear more about the bubble wrap dress, just to close us out. I think everybody here would like to hear more about the bubble wrap dress.
Yeah, Nour, Oona, finish this one out for us. Why don't you tell us about
I'll take us out. Well, this is the NFT bubble, right? Look around. We're in the NFT bubble right now. Unfortunately, to some of us, it's already popped. For some of us, it's just beginning to pop. So I decided that...
For others, it's inflating.
Oh, yeah, for some of us, it's slowly deflating or inflating. So I decided that I would wear a garment out of bubble wrap, and no, it's not recycled, and neither was my flight up to New York City, so don't worry about that part of it. But it's to show that, when we look at art, every medium should stand on the same level. So whether it's art that happens in the intersection of you and the artist, whether it's art that is fashioned, whether it's art that is photography, the beauty of this technology is that it can connect us deeper to art. And I am an art maxi forever. My practice is deeply conceptual, and I'm here to pop the NFT bubble with you all. So if you come around, feel free to pop one of the bubbles. Quite cathartic. It feels really great. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience to us. We love you all.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.